This week in the NBA, not too much has changed, but it's still been a little bit interesting. I'm going to go ahead and give my top 10. At number 10 in my power rankings, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Might be a little biased. Maybe they should have went down a couple spots. They only went 2-2, but they had some good losses. They lost to the Detroit Pistons and the Spurs, and then they beat the Pelicans and the Hornets. So 2 games you should definitely win, and then 2 games where it's okay if you lose. Overall, this season, 16th in offense, 13th in defense, 14th in net rating, almost living up to their mid standards that they always are. Jalen Johnson has been amazing, averaging this week 24, 10, and 9 with 2 steals and a block, shooting 61% true shooting. And really, it is like only 4 or 5 Hawks that are really contributing to winning. So I'm just going to, list some stat lines. Nickeil Alexander-Walker averaged 24 points per game this week, 4-4, 66% true shooting. Porzingis, he only played 2 games, but 23 points on 77% true shooting. And then Onyeka Okongwu averaging 19 points on 52, 47, 100 splits. The Hawks offense is rolling without Trae Young. And Dyson Daniels' steal record is still alive. Right now, he has 70 games straight with a steal, which is 4th in NBA history. At 3rd, Michael Jordan had 77, Alvin Robertson at 105, Chris Paul at 108. Overall, the Hawks have been kind of doing their thing. But Dyson, I would love for you to get this steals record. That's all I'm really caring about right now. As a Hawks fan, if you didn't know. At number 9, I have the San Antonio Spurs. They went 2-1 without Victor Wembanyama. Last week, I did not have them ranked. Because I didn't respect their wins. And now, them winning without Wemby, they're facing a little bit of competition. They beat the Hawks and they beat the Grizzlies at home. And then they lost to the Phoenix Suns, who are on a roll right now. Unfortunately, did not make my top 10. But overall, for the season, 8th in offense, 8th in defense, 7th in net rating. And De'Aaron Fox has returned, and he's back to his former Sacramento Kings self, averaging 24 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 65% true shooting. Keldon Johnson has been amazing. 19 points per game on 76% true shooting. And then David Jones-Garcia played amazing winning minutes against the Hawks. I never heard of him before this week. I still barely know who he is, but I do know he gave the Hawks some buckets. And just by the way, when the Spurs lost to the Phoenix Suns, their 237 game streak was snapped of games with 20 assists or more. 237, that is, I think, almost 3 seasons straight of 20 assists or more. It is by far the highest in NBA history of that kind of streak. I think the second largest, I don't know what team it was, but it was like 150. So unfortunately, that was broken. At number 8, I have the Miami Heat. They're up 2 from last week because I had them 10th last week. 4-0. They beat the Warriors. They beat the Mavs. They beat the Bulls. They beat the Sixers. Are any of those teams really good? No, but none of those teams besides maybe the Mavs are really bad. Overall, those are games that you should be winning, and they did. They are 12th in offense, but 4th in defense, 6th in net rating for the season. And overall, every Miami Heat player is playing great. Davion Mitchell, for the week, had a 28-2 assist-to-turnover ratio. Larson Pele, I think I said his name right. 25-5 assist-to-turnover ratio. Norman Powell's been playing like an all-star. 25 points per game this week, 71% true shooting. And then, obviously, I can't forget, Tyler Hero returned last night and dropped an efficient 24 points. And then Khalil Ware. These last 8 or 9 games, he's been killing it. But this week specifically, 17 and 16. 17 points, 60 rebounds per game. He's been great. And then when him and Bam are playing together, which, by the way, Bam returned recently, they are 6-2. So that starting front court duo has been amazing, and the Heat are up. They're a legit team. At number 7, not the best week from the Cleveland Cavaliers. I have them down 1 from last week. They went 2-2. They beat the Pacers and Clippers at home, which you should do. And then they lost to the Raptors and the Rockets, which aren't bad losses. So it's not like they played terrible, but when other teams are playing really, really good, you kind of have to bring them down a little bit. Overall, for the season, 15th in offense, 6th in defense, 11th in net rating. And the only notable stat I really had for the Cavaliers is that Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Tomlin, I forget his first name, are like the only 3 guys who played all 4 games. Hunter's been missing games. Lonzo's been missing games. Jared Allen, Darius Garland. Like every other Cavalier has been missing games. And that's kind of been who they have been all season. So hopefully they can stay healthy for once. At number 6, I have the Toronto Raptors. They are up 2 from last season. 4-0 on the week. They beat the Sixers away. And then they had 3 home games. They beat the Wizards, the Nets, and the Cavs. 2 of those games, obviously, you should win. And then they had 2 impressive wins. The Raptors have been amazing. 6th in offense for the season. 7th in defense. And they are the 5th best team in net rating for the season. The Toronto Raptors. The player I want to shout out from the Raptors this week was Jamal Sheed. Or Shed. I think it's Shed. 32 assists to only 3 turnovers. He has been handling the ball. He hasn't been shooting it that well, but when you have a role on the team, you stick to it and you become really, really good at it. He is a specialist, really good at that. And the Raptors, ever since Brandon Ingram was so pissed, he threw a glass bottle on the ground, effectively like hitting a ball boy and like making like Scotty Barnes clean it up because Ingram was not trying to clean it up. Ever since that moment, the Raptors are 8-0. So maybe Ingram being, a little baby about that help their momentum a ton. At number 5, zero movement from last week. I have the Los Angeles Lakers. They went 2-0. They beat the Jazz. 1 home game, 1 away game. Overall for the season, they are midder than the Hawks. They are 14th in offense, 14th in defense, and 15th in net rating. So very mid. But Luka Doncic had an amazing week. 35, 8, 9, and 4 steals per game. Austin Reeves, 24 points per game. LeBron James returned, and even though he doesn't look like the regular LeBron, he did average 10 assists per game within those two. And what's interesting about the Lakers is I didn't know this until this week. The Lakers are the best offense from 0 to 16 feet. I'm talking like 0 to 2. It's like 2 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 16. Every single one of those areas, the Lakers are the best team in the league. But they are the worst 3-point team in the league by a mile. They make them, I think they're like bottom 5 in percentage, and they have made the least 3-pointers out of any NBA team this season. I think LeBron was saying, and you're telling me this, Cam, that the Lakers will eventually, find that 3-point shot back. I don't know. They don't really have the personnel for that. But overall, Lakers 2-0, no movement there. At number 4, I did bring the Denver Nuggets down 1 spot from last week, even though they went 3-1. They beat the Pelicans, they beat the Rockets, and they beat the Grizzlies all away from Denver, and then lost to the Kings at home. 2nd in offense for the season, 11th in defense, and the 3rd best net rating team out of all NBA teams. The Nuggets were great, 3-1. I mean, you really can't beat that. Yes, they did lose to the Kings, and that was embarrassing. They have been going through some injuries, though. But overall, the top 4 players on the Nuggets, like points per game wise, have been killing it. Jokic is shooting 69% true shooting this week. Jamal Murray was 63. Peyton Watson was 71, averaging like 18 points per game. And then Cameron Johnson, after struggling for the beginning of the season and then getting hurt, these last 4 games, he shot 76% true shooting, going back to what we thought he would be, which is a very complimentary player to a superstar. Like he kind of was with Devin Booker and Chris Paul for the Suns. Nuggets, we're at number 4. At number 3, I have the Houston Rockets up 1. So I pretty much swapped the Rockets and Nuggets. They went 2-1, and they did lose to the Nuggets at home, but they beat the Cavaliers and they beat the Suns, both away games. Very, very impressive. Overall in the NBA, they are 1st in offense, 5th in defense, and the 2nd best team with a net rating of 11.4, which is ridiculous. It's just they are not the number 1 team. The Rockets have been killing it. Amen Thompson for the week has taken that jump without KD playing last game. Amen Thompson had 28 points, and then his averages are 21, 8, 5, and 2 for the week on 54, 50, 100 splits. Yes, Amen Thompson, 54, 50, 100. Was he taking that many free throws, that many threes? No, but you know what? The fact that he's efficient from those spots is great. And then Reed Shepherd dropped like 24 points in that Nuggets loss. Like, honestly, the way that Reed Shepherd played, they should not have lost to the Nuggets, but they did. 15 points per game on 63% true shooting. And by the way, in Amen Thompson's career, when Amen Thompson drops 25 points or more in a game, the Rockets are 7-1. Pretty much meaning if Amen Thompson ever did take that superstar jump, yeah, the Rockets would be ridiculously good, especially because of how good Amen Thompson is at every other aspect besides scoring. But yeah, they're number 3. At number 2, no movement because they were my number 2 last week. We're going to Detroit Pistons, 3-0. They beat the Hawks. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Pacers. 2 of those wins are not very impressive at all. The Pacers have been awful. The Bucks didn't have Giannis, but beating the Hawks is kind of impressive. 8th in offense for the season, 3rd in defense, and 4th in net rating. And just a little fun fact, because everyone kind of hooped, right? Jaden Ivey came back from injury, and he's been great so far. They have Jenkins. He's been amazing. Duncan Robinson, Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham. Asar Thompson just came back. Tobias Harris just came back. Isaiah Stewart just came back. I mean, Paul Reed has been great. Like, overall, this is a team that's like 13 deep, and that should be the deepest team in the league if it wasn't for the number 1 spot. But everyone's kind of just been killing it. Fun fact though, they have won 13 games in a row. The only other 2 times the Pistons have won 13 times in a row was in 1990 and in 2004. Both years where they won a championship. So maybe Cam is right. Maybe they will make the finals because that was his prediction. I'll give him credit for that. But at number 1, it is the most obvious ranking that you will ever have. The OKC Thunder being a number 1. They went 3-0. They beat the Kings. They beat the Jazz. They beat the Blazers. 2 of those wins, not very impressive. The Blazers is kind of impressive. One thing I will say about the Thunder, 4th in offense, 1st in defense, a 16.9 net rating. One thing I will say about the Thunder is they have had such an easy schedule. If you look at the remaining schedules, based on like winning percentage, they have by far like the hardest schedule remaining, and they've had by far the easiest schedule. They can't control that, but they have been dominating so much to the point where like I'm not concerned. Like I still think they are on like a 75 win pace. I think they'll win 75 games because like it's one thing if they barely have been beating these like bad teams, but they've been literally killing them. I have all the confidence in the world that when it comes to beating the good teams, they will do it. Shea for the week averaged 34 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals on 61, 67, 87 splits. Just ridiculous. Last thing I have to say is that's also pretty crazy. Shea averaged 34 points per game and led every OKC Thunder player that played over 10 minutes per game in field goal percentage. Like he shot better from the field than Chet, better than Hartenstein, better than all these bigs that, don't take many jumpers. And Shea's doing like all jumpers. He's taking like the most difficult shots in the world and he's still more efficient than them. Just shows you he could still win MVP. I don't think he's in the league right now, but he definitely still could.
All right. It's a good list. I think we're going to have some definite similarities between ours with a few key differences. So I'm just going to launch right into mine. I had a hard time with the 10 spot. I really did. I went back and forth between 2 teams a lot. And so I'm going to give an honorable mention to one of these teams. And my honorable mention is going to go to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Hawks were a team I had top 10 this past week. And they are so close to being a top 10 team. They went 2-2 this past week. They beat a couple teams that they should have beaten, the Hornets and the Nets. They lost to a couple teams that, you'd think they'd probably lose to. Although that Spurs loss without Wemby is one you'd hope to get if you're the Hawks and you're trying to be a true contender. Onyeka Okongwu has been amazing over his last couple weeks. Jalen Johnson has been the best player on the Hawks. Overall, I would even, consider Trey in that conversation too. And I said he was going to be the best player on the Hawks by the end of the season. I think he's already there. And I think the team has played great. I've talked about them at length. I think they play really well together. They're young and they run. And I think overall they're gelling. But there is one team that I have been more impressed by recently, especially over this past week. And that is the Phoenix Suns. And that's the team I have at my number 10 spot. Like I said, I went back and forth on this a lot. The Suns were a team I had not ranked. But really just thinking about it, Grayson Allen's been out a decent amount of time. Jalen Green has hardly played. They're working Mark Williams back into the rotation, and this team is still finding ways to win and finding ways to look very impressive. Dillon Brooks is having a career year in terms of offense. Devin Booker's doing his thing, 26-7 on decent efficiency. Mark Williams looks like a really good big. You haven't even really seen Malawach at all. I don't think he's maybe played in some garbage time minutes. Royce O'Neal has been a really good contributor, as he usually is as a tertiary guy. Ryan Dunn. I just really like the way the Suns have been playing. I know they lost by 22 to the Rockets last night, but generally they're playing like more of a team than we've seen the Suns play like in the last few years, and that's something that impresses me. And I'll be shorter with the other teams. I wanted to just go on a little bit of a length about those 2 teams because I think they've both been impressive. I think they both overachieved a little bit for what people would expect given their circumstances in this season. And the Suns deserve their due respect. 3-1 over the last week, beating the Spurs, the Timberwolves, and there was another good team they beat too. The Grizzlies. No, it wasn't the Grizzlies. What am I talking about? It's the Trailblazers. So 3 solid wins. I think they deserve respect for that. At my number 9 spot, I have the San Antonio Spurs. Same spot you had them. Don't have much else to say. I think Fox has looked really good to start. I think the interesting thing will just be once all their pieces come back, how are they going to fit together between Castle and Harper and Fox splitting those guard minutes, and how these guards are going to play next to Wembanyama. We know Castle looks pretty good next to Wemby. We haven't really seen a big sample size of how Fox looks next to him, so interesting thing to keep an eye on. But they've definitely kept their heads above water with Wemby out, and that's impressive. At number 8, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, I have I feel like I'll speak more negatively about them than I will about the other teams around this spot, even though they're still 8th. They're still a good team because I had high expectations for them coming into the year. So far, and we'll talk about it later, Donovan Mitchell's having a career year, and they still have not looked very dominant to start the year. They're in that good, not great category. And when Donovan Mitchell is playing as well as he's playing, you would hope that they can look better. Evan Mobley overall has been about the same as he was last year, and that's maybe a little disappointing because you were hoping he would take more of an offensive leap. He's also shooting 56% from the free throw line on 6 attempts per game, which is not good for a guy that you want to have the ball in the hands of throughout the course of the game and hope that that's the way his game progresses. But overall, they're deep, they're talented. Garland hasn't really gotten his legs under him this season, and I think they'll be fine. It's just 7 other teams have performed a lot better than them. And speaking of which, at number 7, I have the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are a team that I feel like I've been giving credit towards in my words, but not in my rankings. And I think it's time that I switch that up a little bit because the Miami Heat have at every turn continued to play really good basketball and really solid basketball and play well together as a team. They stay connected. There are no holes on that defense. Tyler Hero played his first game last night, and like you said, dropped an efficient 24. Norman Powell has continued his hot streak from last year, which is extremely impressive considering his age and also his history as a player. And this big rotation is really what has impressed me the most between Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo. You have 2 legit 6'10 plus players who can switch pretty much to almost any position and you would feel okay about it. And that's huge because it improves their rebounding, improves their interior defense. It's what the Thunder have, and that's shown to be successful, and Miami is replicating that in their big rotation. At number 6, I have the Toronto Raptors. This is a team that someone had commented on my ranking of last week due to me not having them in the top 10 and giving them an honorable mention. And I said if they did well this week, even if they lost to the Cavs, I would have them in my top 10. And hey, guess what? They beat the Cavs and they looked pretty good doing it. Brandon Ingram looks like a legit, I mean, he's always been a legit bucket. Fastest guy in his class in terms of games played to 10,000 points. But Brandon Ingram just looked like such a legit bucket last night against the Cavs. And then you look at these other guys quickly, and Barnes and Barrett didn't even play last night. So many mouths to feed, so many guys that you consider to be kind of ball dominant guys, not really great catch and shoot players aside from maybe Ingram. But they've all played very well together. Podol's holding it down in the paint. Shed's playing good. There's just a lot of guys that have played better than I expected, frankly, and they have played really well at this point. They're second in the East. And do I think they maintain this? Probably not to this degree. But I do think that they will be a top 6 team in the East, most likely. At number 5 of the Los Angeles Lakers, we got to go see them play, which was a pretty good time. But yeah, the Lakers have looked odd in some ways this season. Obviously, the talent's there with Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James. DeAndre Ayton's played well. Even guys like Rui Hachimura have played well off the bench. Dalton Connect isn't getting burned anymore, which I find interesting due to their shooting struggles. But yeah, their team stats aren't great to this point in the year for as good as their record is. I think that's something they'll figure out. I don't know if the shooting is necessarily going to come like LeBron said it will, but they also don't need to be a shooting team. They're so good, all of them, at getting to the line and getting free throws and slowing the game down. And that probably benefits LeBron in the long term because even though he's still LeBron and he's still got all of the athletic gifts that he has and he's worked very hard to keep his body in condition, he's 41, 42 years old. It's going to help him to be able to slow the game down. And that's what Luka and Reeves will probably do. At number 4, and I thought this was interesting, I have the Houston Rockets. You had them one spot higher. You had the Nuggets at 4, and I'll just say I have the Nuggets at 3. These two teams are so close in my mind. They are, pretty much on that same level of like, okay, there's the 2 best teams in the NBA, and then there's these 2 teams, and then there's kind of everyone else. But the reason why I have the Nuggets above the Rockets, even though the Nuggets lost to the Kings this week, the Nuggets beat the Rockets, and I have to give them credit for that. They were without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown and still found a way to win that game. And at the end of the day, you are going to lose to a team like the Kings every once in a while. Now, if that's a consistent pattern, I obviously have to hold that against you. But the Kings had another solid win last night against the Timberwolves, so obviously they're playing good right now. And the Nuggets, I mean, one-on-one, they beat the Rockets, and to me that holds more weight than their overall record for the week, even though the Rockets had a couple good wins this week too. But yeah, the Houston Rockets have looked really good to this point in the year. They're second in the NBA in net rating. I feel like they are the opposite of the Lakers, where they're actually underperforming relative to their team stats. They look like they should be better than they are, and I find that very interesting. I think Amen needs to take that step of being a more aggressive scorer in order for this team to take that leap, because what they're really missing is that sort of offensive initiator. Kevin Durant has been that at times and has not been that at times. And as much as they like Sengun, even if you've got Jokic, you still need a Jamal Murray. So I want to see him become that more of that offensive initiator, not just because I have him in fantasy, but also because I wanted to see him do that in general, because he is an incredibly gifted player. And then the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic just played like the best player on the planet to start the season. And they look really good. Jamal Murray is well in his playoff form at this point in time. And they've been without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown, who are two very important pieces for them, especially surrounding Jokic. They're continuing to find ways to win, and I think at this current point in time, they're the biggest threat to the OKC in the West. At number 2, I have the Detroit Pistons. Should be no surprise to anybody. 13 straight wins, like you said, ties a franchise record. Cade Cunningham has looked really good to this point in the year. Jalen Duren has been an absolute offensive revelation. We knew he had the defense and rebounding, but the fact that he is developing a midi now is kind of insane. Because it really did come out of nowhere. Like, he just wasn't taking them last year, and now he's starting to gain a lot of confidence with his jumper. Jaden Ivey played his first game of the season recently, and he's getting back into the rotation, so it'll be interesting to see where they fit him in. But generally, I think this is a team that plays much like the Miami Heat in that they're very connected and they don't have any true gaps on defense, except you have Cade Cunningham instead of Tyler Hero. And all due respect to Tyler Hero, he's a good player, but Cade Cunningham is playing like a top 10 player in the NBA right now. He's bringing back that inefficient guard, volume scorer from the 2000s and the early 2010s, and I love it. So I want to continue to see the Pistons play well. Obviously, I had them going to the finals. I'd love to see them there at the end of the year, and they keep this up, they will be. Number 1, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, and there really shouldn't need to be an explanation for it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing things that we've never seen he's doing what Jokic is doing. We've never seen what Shai is doing. We've also, we probably haven't seen since, Jordan, Kobe, like guys like that, in terms of a 6'6" guard dominating the game this way. And overall, the team has just played incredibly, and they still haven't had their second best player. And yes, they've had easy competition, but they're 17-1. You're 17-1 against NBA teams. You're doing something right. And J-Dub hasn't even played. I mean, this team looks like they're going to threaten the all-time wins record. Until they don't look that way, I have no reason to not put them at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One reason I did have, because I guess that is kind of the big difference. We had a couple differences, but the big one is Nuggets versus Rockets. It really is a toss-up, and yeah, the Nuggets did win. I'm just more convinced by the Rockets. The fact that they have held the best offensive rating in the NBA for so long, after having, like Amen Thompson and like Steven Adams, guys like that on your team, who respectfully before the season, we didn't think were like that good offensively. It's just amazing. And the fact that the Nuggets, again, they did beat the Rockets head to head, but just consistently their defense just isn't keeping up, and it's not affecting their wins, right? So that's why win-wise it doesn't matter. But when it comes to how I personally rank them, I do still, I saw, like, personally, and they're still a great team, but I did see Jock Landale kind of walk down Jokic yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit concerning. It's not a big concern. I'm not saying that this is the reason they're not going to win at all or something like that, but like, that is kind of one reason I would have put the Rockets. It's just like a generally higher threat. There's just generally less weaknesses, I'd say.
I agree, and I think generally that's true. I will also give the Nuggets the credit of missing Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown, who are two of their better defenders, especially Aaron Gordon, who's very switchable. The thing that I hold against the Rockets a little bit, and I spoke to how good their team stats are. They have the second best net rating in the NBA. It's one of the best net ratings in NBA history, but they're not closing out games. There's been at least 2 games against good teams that they could have won that they haven't closed out in the games that they've had against the Thunder and the Nuggets. And I am concerned by this because you went and got Kevin Durant to be that guy. Kevin Durant was supposed to be the guy that closed out games for you, and he has a couple times. There have been, I can't remember what team they were playing, but he hit a nice little Kevin Durant size up to put them up 3 with like 4 seconds to go. So Kevin Durant is still doing Kevin Durant things, but I want to see more, because so far the Houston Rockets have looked like a, 95% of the game team, where it's like they can be great for 95% of the game, but you get into clutch time, you don't like you look at the best teams in the NBA, right? The Thunder have a closer, dude. The Thunder have a closer. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander might be one of the, number one guys in the league when it comes to, I want you to go get a bucket in crunch time. And honestly, if I need a two from the mid range, I'm not going to anyone else. It's definitely Shai. And maybe if I need a two in general, the Pistons have Cade. And I would say Cade, even though he can be inefficient at times, is definitely a closer. He's a guy who can get to his spots very easily. The Nuggets have Jokic and Jamal Murray, who could both be closers in their own ways. And the Lakers have Luka Doncic and LeBron James and Austin Reeves, who have all shown capabilities to close out games. The Rockets are supposed to have Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant at times has looked a little more passive, which may be a result of the team he's playing on. But if that's going to be the case, I need to see Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün develop more of that aggressive mentality in the clutch. And honestly, Amen more so, because Şengün is a great player, and I really do like Şengün. I think he's one of the top 5 centers, or has played like it in the NBA this year. But his bag in the clutch, as we even saw against the Warriors, is not as deep as you'd like it to be for a go-to option. And Amen is a guy who you look at and you would say, with your athleticism and your physical ability, there should be no reason anyone could stop you from getting to the basket and getting a two in the clutch. And I want to see Amen do that more. I feel like he's underperforming for his physical capability. He's obviously performing very well this season, but I want to see more of that because, we even saw it yesterday. There's this clip of him where he catches the ball in the corner and takes like literally one step and then double clutch dunk at the rim. Like, this dude might be the most athletic guy I've ever seen, along with like Ja Morant and Derrick Rose, and he's 6'6".
Yeah.
Okay,
personally though, I do disagree. I agree with the fact that yes, Amen probably should be better in the clutch, but honestly, it should just be Kevin Durant. They should just be better at giving it to Kevin Durant. We talk about, because obviously Kevin Durant's a better player than Amen Thompson, but you talk about Giannis versus Middleton in that aspect. Like, Middleton was always that closer, and I think everyone was kind of fine with Middleton being the closer, because he was so good at it. And Kevin Durant should be way better than like a Chris Middleton.
It's the same way that people are fine with Jamal Murray being a closer, because what you do really need, your closer kind of has to be a guy that can get to those mid-range spots and knock down shots, because those are going to be the shots that are available in crunch time. Teams are going to clog the paint, and if you're, they don't want to give up a 3 to lose the game, right? If you're down by 2. So that mid-range spot is going to be what's open. And Amen hasn't fully developed that yet. So I will give some credit to that. I just want to see more from Amen, because he becomes a non-factor in the clutch a lot of the time. It really does just become Şengün or KD. And Amen's supposed to be that third guy, and maybe even like the second guy, kind of. Like, it just depends on how good he gets. That being said, both these guys are really young. Amen's 22 and Şengün is 23. So if I'm a Rockets fan, I have a lot to look forward to about the future. And I'm not unhappy that these guys haven't developed that yet, but let's just hope that we see that as the season goes on, because this is a damn good opportunity for them to win a title. You don't want to squander it, even if your core is young.
No, yeah, you want to go all in. By the way, quick random note,
yeah,
because we were last night talking about like what team. It's so interesting to think about Cam Thomas and his free agency thing. Cam Thomas is one of those guys who could just be a closer for a team like the Dallas Mavericks with Anthony Davis.
But that is such a luxury that you have to, if you're a team, you have to be good everywhere else, because you only get 10 guys that you're going to play during a game. If you're giving minutes to this guy, because if you got Cam Thomas on your team, it's not like you're just giving him minutes in the clutch.
Yeah,
so
you're
giving him minutes throughout the game. So you have to be we are so solid everywhere else defensively that we can afford to give up a guy, like a roster spot in minutes, to a guy who's a liability everywhere else except scoring, where he's incredible, right? Because he's not a rebounder, he's not a distributor, he's not a defender, but he can soar the ball. Not that he should be this guy this year, but eventually who you would hope could be that guy is like a Reed Shepherd. You would hope that he can turn into that Jamal Murray kind of guy.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of like a little situation the Rockets have. But then again, you don't want to waste Kevin Durant, but also, KD's not the definition of the team. If Kevin Durant wasn't on this team, you could just replace him with another scorer and it'd still be fine. Like Kevin Durant has been playing great, but he has not been doing as much as a Kevin Durant probably should.
He's looked like a really good NBA player, just not like Kevin Durant.
The Rockets look like Jalen Green could come back to the team and they'd still be really good.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'd say all the other pieces have been looking that good. Where yeah, Jalen Green could replace KD, and they'd be like worse, but they'd still.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that much.
I mean, I
worse.
think KD will show more of his value even in the playoffs, and which is where I want him to. You know, obviously, what are we, 15 games into the season for the Rockets, 16, and he's healthy. That's kind of the biggest thing for them. Is just keeping Kevin Durant healthy. If he gets hurt, they'll be fine too. I mean, they've got so many guys that are good, and it would just give more opportunity to Sengun and him in. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. And then elsewhere on the list, I don't know where you had the Suns. If you were thinking of them as like an 11 or
they were
12.
borderline. They could have
So,
been 10. Yeah.
the only
so.
reason I had them higher is just because Devin Booker to this point has looked better than anybody on the Hawks. And when it comes down to it, I want like Jalen Johnson has looked good. And the Hawks have close games. I will give them credit for that.
I don't know.
but Devin-
I'd say Jalen Johnson looked better than Booker.
Jalen Johnson has looked really good actually.
Is
But-
Booker even like Booker's been playing great?
But I
and
mean, you
all.
just talk about the depth of the guys performing on the Suns, and you don't even have Jalen Green. Like Grayson Allen's averaging 18 and a half. Dylan Brooks is averaging 22. Colin Gillespie is having a really good season as a bench guard. Mark Williams is playing good. Royce O'Neal is playing good. Like there's just not many.
Jordan Goodwin's come out.
Jordan Goodwin, yeah. I mean, he hooped. So I think there's just a lot there, and they're missing who is supposed to be their second best player and have been for most of the year. And you could say the Hawks are missing Trey, but y'all know what we think about Trey. So